Ready? There's one. Where's the rest of my gang?
Here they come.
They're all coming in. All right.
Hello.
I think we're all good.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Turn on my light.
Happy Saturday.
Yeah.
Alexa, turn on desk lamp.
Let's hang out. Was that a real thing, Monica, or was that a joke? Because I love it.
Real thing. What? Look behind me. Watch this. Alexa, turn on mouse lamp.
That.
Alexa, get out this moderate. Alexa,
we are
moderate
living in the
panel.
future.
Yeah, no kidding. I want to be a producer. Is that?
We are living in the future right now.
That's what happens when you're a producer.
Yeah. Shoot.
You make Alexa do everything when you're.
Yeah.
Mine totally does that too. Alexa, fan lamp.
He's like clapping.
Working out.
I can't take credit. Hi, Allison.
Hi, all. Hi, everyone. Hello, all the attendees.
Hi, attendees.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. I like the virtual attendee of mystery. That's it's like an international domestic attendees of mystery.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Oh, you can't really, you don't see it. There's no real, it's like audience versus virtual. It's like you don't see everyone's faces.
Right.
So who knows what faces they're making at us behind the scenes?
Big
I don't know.
smiles. They're like, yeah.
All smiles. All right. So, hi, everyone. I'm Allison Mann. I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Brick Foundation. I'm also VP of Creative Strategy over at Sony Pictures Animation. I'm here with some of my favorite pals of the animation community and Rise Up Animation. I will do a little this is Bobby, this is Frank, this is Monica, and this is Trent. And then maybe y'all can just do a little brief intro of yourselves. And then what I would like to dive into once you do that is talk about, because we're going to talk about mentorship. Start with your own personal point of view. Who mentored you and how did you get that mentorship? Because I know from our last kind of pre-call that it all looked pretty different. So Bobby, because you're next to me on the screen, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll work our way from Bobby to Frank to Monica to Trent.
Sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good. Hi, everybody. I'm Pontius. I'm an animator, designer, art director in animation. I've worked in games and film and TV before. And so right now I'm at Disney Television Animation developing my own show, kind of based on my experiences in the on my culture in the Philippines and all that kind of stuff, which I'm honored to be doing. Should I go into mentorship? So I've had a lot of mentors over the years, and whether or not they would consider me their mentees, I latch on to people every 5 years of just kind of teach me everything that you know. And I still do that. I mean, I'll continue to do that probably my whole career. I'll probably shout out Thank you, Lee, for being my visual development mentor. Or shout out Coach Bob in the same way. And then I'll shout out my art school teachers that even just got me into this in the first place, and kind of ignited the fire in the beginning and showed me that this is even possible. So I've never had I've had formal mentors and casual mentors, but I'm always looking to learn under somebody all the time. So I can hot potato it if you want me to do that, Allison.
Yeah.
So I'll go to Monica. Lagocated. Oh, okay. I'll hop potato it to Trent Corey.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing. No, I got it.
Let me go last. Let me go last on this one. Okay. All right.
No, makes sense. I'll hop potato it to Trent Corey, one of my good friends, and we collaborate all the time. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks. Yeah. So I have been in the industry since 2008, and I worked in TV in film, and now have been at Disney for just about 9 years. I have worked as an animator, story artist, and am currently directing short projects at Disney for Disney Plus. And mentorship has been huge for me. I mean, my whole career is the way it is because of mentorship. I truly believe that, and mentorship that people went out of their way to give to me. I mean, there's so many. There's a high school teacher, Mr. Jamie LeDuc, who was my first mentor, who made me connect the ideas of bringing art and film together, animation, and there's all these three in the room. These are all mentors to me. You know, Bobby, Monica, and Frank have all been mentors in a way too. And at Disney, I was very, very lucky to have Amy Smead be my mentor. And Amy, who's a veteran at Disney, about 20 years at Disney, taught me the Disney way and how to CG animate. So thank goodness for mentors in this community. And I will kick it off to Frank.
Hey everybody. So I'm Frank Abney. I've been animating the last 14 years and jumped into directing. I directed a short film recently called Canvas, and now directing a feature over at Netflix. And you know, just mentor. It was such a daunting thing for me, just thinking about, you know, the idea of networking and someone like kind of shepherding me. But I just to give you an idea, my very first mentor, who I've had the pleasure of working with the last few years when I was at Pixar, Victor Navone, actually, to throw his name out there. So I found him on, I think, just browsing the internet, trying to look for animators and people that were at places that I wanted to be. And he had a blog. I found his email, shot him an email, and it was really that you just, you know, I didn't want to throw my work at him right away, but I just wanted to learn more of his journey, because I read that he was self-taught and all that, and you know, just learning how he got to where he was, and so, you know, that relationship formed through those, you know, just those conversations back and forth, and then, you know, showing him my work, and he ended up recommending Animation Mentor to me, which, you know, after I graduated college, like, I went straight there, and he ended up being my first technical mentor there as well. And so, you know, and just over the years kept in touch, and, you know, whenever I had some work that I needed some fresh eyes on, you know, he was one of the people that I would go to, and you know, even now I still keep up with the mentor, the idea of having that, you know, just because, you know, now being a director, like, there's people I go to now to talk to, you know, whether it's Shannon Tyndall or Peter Ramsey, or, you know, just like people that are doing it already, and just kind of keeping that going, because, you know, there's always something you can learn, and yeah, just the perpetual student, you know, that's the thing. So yeah, so I will pass it over to Monica.
Thank you. So I started in animation in 1994. My first film was Pocahontas. So I'm what we call I don't like to say veteran, because I think we all are. At 15 years, you're a veteran. But I'm got over 25 years, and I would say that when I was coming up, that's why I wanted to go last. I didn't really have the kind of mentorship that the guys are speaking of. I think a huge reason, thank you, Sydney. I think a huge reason for that is because I'm a production person, and my aspiration was to be a producer. And I've always been kind of a producer type. My mother's an artist and my dad a businessman, and I always took care of everything. And so there was really no one who looked like me. Actually, at the time, there were no Hispanic, Jewish producers. They were mostly men. They might have even been Italian, but they weren't really leaning into their Italian heritage. So everybody kind of just seemed very like Caucasian, and the women were blonde, and, you know, so I just didn't, it wasn't like there was someone I could really kind of club onto, you know? So for me, and yes, I know you don't have to ask people to be your mentor, but there was a time over 25 years ago when people kind of expected you to kind of be a little bit more direct about it, because if you just ask them questions, they might answer that question, but they didn't realize it was like, hey, I had the ability to really teach this person. And again, because production management, you're not looking at artwork. It's not like I'm sharing a shot, a scene, a drawing, or aspirations to direct. Production and producing is so much about your personality and your interpersonal skills with people. And I think there's a lot of folks who are very hesitant to give you feedback about that. What I would hear a lot was, well, I don't want to change you. But really what they should have realized is that we all are born a certain way and we have certain personalities, but how they manifest in the workplace and how we project ourselves can absolutely be tweaked. You don't have to change who you are, but you got to think about where you're at, think about your audience. And I grew up with a mom who was a teacher and an artist. She didn't really work for anyone. She had a lot of autonomy, and my dad was his own boss as well. So I didn't really get the emotional intelligence that I wish I had gotten. So yeah, vamos, right? So that's kind of my story. But I did get some people later in my life. So Clark Spencer, who's now running a course, Walt Disney Animation Studios, was my producer twice, and he was fabulous. But again, always the feedback was always very light, but I could at least reach out and ask questions.
I think it's really interesting, and the reason why I wanted to start off by asking individuals like what you all have experienced is because it can philosophically look different. It's all shapes and sizes. I know for myself, I've been matched with people who've been my mentor, and that didn't feel organic or it felt kind of forced in a way. So it's like, yeah, we're having weekly meetings. Yeah, maybe they're hearing me out, but I didn't know if I was really, either of us were getting a lot out of it. I've had, similar to you, Bobby, I have had like art teachers who they didn't know it, but I felt like I learned so much, and a lot of their philosophy has carried on through my life. So let's talk about the philosophy of mentorship. Like, what does it mean to be a mentor, and what does it mean to be a mentee, and how do those relationships come to be? Because again, they can become all shapes and sizes. So I can either punt it to different people, or you can jump in to, if you have an idea of how to answer.
I can jump in a little bit. Yeah, I think just the idea of being a mentor, for me, it's been just someone that's kind of someone that's there to help guide you on your not just your work, but even career choices, and then feedback on that, like what direction you should go, like all these things that we don't really learn in school, but it's just like that navigation through the industry. There's a lot of that's a lot of the questions that I have nowadays. It's like when I reach out to those mentors of mine, as a mentee, seeking that guidance for areas that I'm not familiar with, especially being outside of the studio space now, and more on the kind of independent route. Sharing that knowledge, not harboring it and kind of holding it close to you, because that can happen as well. But allowing other people to learn from your mistakes, from your the things that help propel you. You just any and everything really, whatever that that's applicable to their path that they want to take.
When you're listening to someone, Frank, and they're telling you kind of what their interests are you taking into accountability their backgrounds, like where they've come up, and maybe the barriers they're putting up from themselves in order to get to where they need to be? Like, what is the responsibility of a mentor, and recognizing an individual for where they're, again, the barriers that they're kind of creating for themselves? Because I think that's often a lot of the challenges with moving forward in your career.
Yeah, definitely, because it plays such a huge factor in what they're able to do, in terms of resources and because it on one side I could if someone wants to be an animator but it hasn't gone to school yet or anything, one of the first things that I'll go into, just so I don't assume anything, is talk about the free resources available, like and free software, and then talking about if they want to go to school, you know, just trying to think of, you know, I guess the less financially damaging route first, you know, just yeah, just to you know, just to ease it on, because you know this route is not cheap at all. So I definitely want to take that into account, you know, what where they are, and also sometimes just ask, you know, like you know, is this, you know, self-funding, or your parents helping out, or like, you know, just to get an idea of what I can provide, because I know it's going to be different for many people.
You know, it's interesting, Allison, because there's really two parts of that, right? There's the what do we think mentorship is when you're mentored within the United States, what other people are close to you, and then what Rise Up Animation does, which is we cater to international communities. So while we're a US-based nonprofit, our mentees can come from anywhere around the world. And so a lot of folks that we talk to are in areas where there aren't even schools that cater to animation. So a lot of what we provide is the tools of online schools and stuff, which is what kind of Frank is talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, go.
Oh, sorry, Frank. Yeah, I was just going to add one small thing. I completely agree with these guys. And it's what I love about Rise Up is mentoring all over the place and helping to point in the right direction and give access to free resources or things they may not have access to. Another thing for me for mentoring is just having someone that just believes in you. Sometimes it's as simple, for me coming up, it was as simple as, you know, I would email 10 animators that I would love, and one of them would, or I'd probably email 100, one of them would get back to me. And I'm going to just put someone on the spot. BJ Crawford was that guy for me. Who's an amazing animator, and just the fact that he got back to me, he wrote me like an email back, and here's this person I looked up to that just kind of said, you can do it, here's some feedback and some critiques, and we started an exchange. And I mean, he didn't have to do that, and for me it was just the fire that I needed to keep going at that time in my career. So sometimes it's just you know, saying hi and giving support.
It's interesting because when I think about, so the other thing I mentioned you during our pre-call is that I was actually assigned someone when I first started at Disney that they were like, this is someone you can look to who's done, I think it was when I got promoted. So I was a PA and I got promoted to production supervisor, and they're like, okay, now you can look to this person and ask them and they'll be your mentor. But, you know, we were both very young, and I knew that individual was dating somebody, and they were embarrassed that I knew they were dating somebody. So it became very awkward. So I couldn't even utilize that experience. So for me, I always felt like mentorship was really about teaching, you know, as well. And also learning from the other person. And I think what's so rewarding today about what we do is that we do meet with so many people. And what we're able to give them is just, you know, our journey, our knowledge. We make sure that our mentors now have, you know, we have guidelines for our mentors that we're bringing in, because it's very specific what we need to be talking about. It's not just our journey. That's important. And everybody needs to feel that and see that. It's not just about the job we got, the first job. It's also about being able to keep a job at a place for, like, you know, it can be different places, but being in the professional world for 3 to 5 years gives you start to understand the culture and kind of the politics, because they exist everywhere. And so I think that's an important piece. And then what we now learn is from everyone we're meeting with is teaching us something. You know, it's so rewarding.
This is a little bit of, there's a question in there about how do you get mentorship if you're older and have some experience in the industry, but have struggled to get work in your preferred medium. And so I want to address that, but also the fact that I think psychologically, we sometimes feel that mentorship is only for those who are just now entering the workforce. And so I think, what does mentorship look like? And to answer this individual's question of how do you get mentorship if you're older and have some experience in the industry but are struggling to get work? Like, what is that balance between being a squeaky wheel, mentorship, guidance? Like, what are those tools and resources that, you know, of being specific when wanting to get advice?
I want to give Bobby an opportunity to speak if he wanted to. Sorry. But Frank's got that. Go, Frank.
Yeah. I was gonna throw in there, like, you know, sometimes, you know, at certain studios they may have something in place already, you know, for you to sync up with someone that's on a path that you would like to take. You know, I don't know if every studio does this, but, you know, sometimes we'll have check-ins with managers, and you know, they'll ask kind of like, you know, what's your goal, like what do you want to do, and but if you're outside of the studio space, and I feel like, you know, just, I guess, never feel like you're above just asking for help and asking for anything, like regardless of where you are in your career. Like there's always someone, like, you know, just, you know, getting into, you know, when I got the opportunity to direct this feature, you know, first thing I did was I reached out to some of the directors that I admired, and you know, that I worked with, and some people that, you know, had a similar path, that, you know, jumped from animation to directing, and some that just had their first experience directing a feature. So it's like just always being willing to, you know, just put aside any and everything that you know can get in the way of you know, making you feel like you can't ask for help, just reaching out.
So would you say it's being like very specific? So
Yeah.
Knowing what you want to do, doing some soul searching, identifying the humans that are doing that work, and then being very specific in the conversation that you want to get out, and kind of your intentions. Would you say it's kind of a combination of those things?
Yeah.
In addition to what?
It sounds like that's definitely what Frank is saying, and that's true. But I also think there's the other side. There are those who don't know, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
So is it easier if you know what you want to do and know who you want to be, you know, idolizing, or looking at the movies? If you want to be a great, you know, production designer, it used to be called art directors, you know, look at the films that are your favorite films, look at those people, try to reach out to them. But we get a lot of folks over 18 in their 40s that come in and go, you know, I've been doing illustration work or this or that or comics or what have you, and I really want to get into feature animation or TV animation. And what I tell them is, you know, we were lucky. We work in one industry where ageism is not as prevalent. So, you know, I mean, I'm older than I look, thank goodness. And you don't have to tell people how old you are. If they don't know, it doesn't matter. What's really important is to be current about what's happening in the world, because you don't want to get stale. And then just go for it. Because we don't really, especially if you're an artist, we look at the art. And if you're great, you know, and your personality, your culture fit, great.
Yeah, Monica, sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to add on top of that I think I can speak for all of us, that I think some of the best artists and people we know in the industry started late. We know people at this table that were plumbing for 10 years before becoming an animator, or switched careers or switched disciplines, you know, jumped from animation to CG animation to story and directing. Like it happens quite a bit, and you find mentors along the way that can support you. So don't let age ever be a limit.
I mean, I was 26 when I started as a PA. That was considered old for a PA. It's not today, but at the time, all the PAs were like in their, you know, 22, 21. And I moved from animation to live action in my 40s. So yeah, I'll be honest, I'm 52 and I'm proud of it.
Hey, Bobby, I'm going to punt over to you.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Can anyone be a mentor? And what makes a good mentor?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. So I think that once you have a kind of like kind of experience in what you kind of want to say for, you know, to pass generation, yes, you can be a mentor. I would actually, okay, so first of all, I would say, the thing that I would say is the thing that everyone should be looking forward to is passing on information to the next generation, right? And I think you know, that's kind of like the whole thing of like Rise Up Animation, of just kind of like, you know, taking our experiences and then passing it on to you guys so that you guys can sort of empower yourselves, and anyone can empower themselves to make their dreams kind of come true as well. But in terms of like being in a place where you are mentoring, I don't know that that's even quantifiable. I think that the most that we can do is share our experiences, right? There's at no point like I'm like, okay, I am now a mentor now. I am qualified as a mentor now with Trent, with Monica, with like Frank. What we can do is kind of like have an open communication with people that are trying to get into the animation industry, trying to break into the animation industry, and just go, these are my experiences. You know, this is what I went through, and whether that helps you, I hope it does help you, and but that's it. That's all. I mean, like, the mentorship, where you are as a mentor, like I think is a little bit ambiguous, because we're always just trying to share our experiences, right? So
I think you're right on, Bobby. I think what you're saying is that
yeah,
if you're when you're out in the world and somebody is contacting you to mentor, you can answer questions. It's a little different when you create a nonprofit. It's kind of like when you have a school. You have to get people right. You kind of know when you're ready to teach, to be a teacher at a school. I think it was something that Frank said recently where, you know, so I think our program is separate in a sense from the question you're asking, Allison, and what Bobby is verbalizing right now, because he's right on. You know, it's very, if I were a PA wanting to get in, I'm going to want to talk to another PA. But if you're servicing people who are trying to get in at a different level and they're more curious about how to navigate, you know, someone who's abusive to you, that PA may not have experienced that. They may not have had enough experience in their life yet, and that's fine. So it also depends on what you're looking for.
So let's talk about Frank.
I was going to say just on the last part of your question about what makes a good mentor. I think it just boils down to honesty, because you know I feel like when I was getting to the industry, I feel like there was I had this notion of what I thought the industry was, you know, because, you know, sometimes, especially, you know, when you see stuff online, like it can be painted in a certain light that that is not quite what you experience sometimes at studios. You know, there's a lot of things where I had to question, like, you know, is this really how it is? Like, is this, you know, I thought everyone's like all, you know, happy to be making art and all this stuff, and, you know, but then you're introduced to the politics and introduced to the different, you know, competing personalities and egos and, you know, all this stuff. And I think, you know, being honest about all of that, you know, in terms of the journey and all that stuff, like that's what I feel like makes a good mentor. Just I want the truth.
Absolutely.
So within the truth, like, and also what a mentor, like, is mentorship just about career? Because Monica, I just heard you say it could be navigating something around harassment, or it could be around different. So talk to me about what is a role of a mentor, and when a mentor and mentee sign up, like, what does that dynamic, or what could it look like? And is it a one size fits all? Would you have more than one mentor through your time as you're, you know, at any given time? Or is it just one mentor, one mentee? Like, what
Rise Up Animation, our program is such that you can sign up every 60 days. You get a different professional industry advice POV. So that's kind of what makes us different, I think, than a lot of mentorship programs. You know, you go into a program and say you get one person and that's it for 6 months or what have you. And what we do is, you know, you sign up and whoever, you know, is able to, because we have people in certain disciplines, and sometimes they pitch into other disciplines, like I do different disciplines, all the guys do. I mean, you select that person, and if I, as the mentor, have the bandwidth to continue on with them, then I will say to them, you got me, and I can tell you, you can email me anytime with questions. We can set up mock interviews or pitch it, whatever you want. But just know that that's not the expectation. Not every mentor can do that because there's some that are very busy. So, and if you don't want to do that, you can always sign up again in 60 days with someone else. So I would say that and I'm sure that each of the guys will have an opinion, and I want to hear them. The thing that I would say is I've actually even done some like mental health stuff to help people that are in certain areas that are having a really tough time. So I don't think it's just career, it's personality, it's barriers to entry. It can be anything for the most part. I mean, with me.
Almost like life coaching.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, that's what a mentor is, right? You're trying to help. Yeah. It's up to the mentee.
We've all had experiences like that, like Monica and Trent, just kind of like talking to people, like, just kind of like these portfolio reviews are more than just reviews. It's kind of like meeting somebody who wants to get into the industry, into the connection. And we've had people that have struggled and cried, and I've had that, and it's really at that point you realize it's more than just a meeting, it's more than just a portfolio review. It's kind of a connection with somebody halfway across the world that wants to get into animation, that can't or doesn't feel like he or she can. And and at that point you're kind of like, okay, where can we get to a place where we can kind of like up the skills and help the situation, but also kind of like mentally just like kind of get you there, because I've been there before and being rejected by like every single studio in Hollywood. And how do you persist?
Bobby, I think you're absolutely right, Bobby, and I'll just add to that too, that I think I could speak for everyone that almost half of the sessions, they're not on the technical side, they're not doing drawers. It's, especially right now, it's how to manage the pandemic, and when I'm coming out of school and companies aren't hiring, how to manage that. When I'm in another country and I can't get a work visa, how do I manage that? So there's so many questions and uncertainty that we're there to step in and hopefully give some insight to. And like Bobby said, it can lead to tears. It's a lot of people in tough places too. So
I've had some good cry sessions with my mentees. And then the other thing that we do is we do panels. So if we notice a reoccurring theme, we'll throw that to Bobby, who really runs with the marketing and PR team, and we'll do a panel about visas, or we'll do a panel about something, because we can't solve everything, right? And we're not here to say that we can. We don't guarantee jobs. What we do is we try to provide each mentee with whatever it is they're needing. So, and it is very much, I love that Frank said honesty, because a lot of them don't get honesty. They're in school, they're being taught by some great teachers, and some of the teachers are just doing the best they can. They're covering many classes, and they never worked in the industry. So I can't tell you how many mentees, and they call me the Alexander Hamilton of these sessions, because I've done a lot since we began, and so many of them don't have the fundamentals. Like, they're being told they don't need to have a sketchbook area or cafe sketches or what have you, and show their actual ability to draw, whether it's by hand on a piece of paper and scan it in, or on a Cintiq, whatever it is. Like, you need to have that if you're starting out. It's only when you're established that people are like, okay, this person's a badass, and we don't have to look at their fundamentals. Like the guys on the screen here.
Yeah, it's you really hit it on, just on the life, the industry is so much of our lives, it's so it's natural that those, just, was it yesterday, the day before yesterday, I just had a conversation with someone that was asking about a job opportunity that came up, but they would have to leave their significant other behind, and like navigating that, like, is this job, does this seem worth it if I want to get to feature, you know, you worked in games, so how did you, you know, and you know, so I talked about my own experiences with, you know, when I left the games to go to Disney, and my wife was still living in the Bay Area when I moved to Burbank for a little while, you know, and how we navigated that, and you know, so it's yeah, there was not even any animation talk whatsoever. It was just life moves. So.
And remember,
Yeah,
sorry, I was going to say, remember, we don't call them portfolio feedback sessions anymore because we have people from, you know, for all the discipline, tons of disciplines. So it could be, we just call them feedback sessions because it could be technology, production management. And what I think we give them is some confidence because we are honest with them. Sorry, go ahead, Trent.
Yeah, no, I thought this might just be a time to add. Like Allison, I know you know this, all of us do, that with Rise Up, we have over 500, close to 600 mentors that span across the industry, both in TV, feature, and, you know, CG, stop motion, 2D. And I think for us, like, seeing our industry step forward and say we want to make a difference and we want to mentor and we want to give back because so much of our industry is about paying it forward. Was just a highlight, I think, for all of us. As soon as we put the word out, 300, I remember Bobby, Frank at the time, Monica, yet to join us as an official founder, but she was our #1 mentor. Just people coming forward and saying, yes, finally a platform we want to help specifically for BIPOC artists and support them in this community.
Love that. I have more questions, but we have so many audience questions that I think it's worth having, because you have the panelists that are here, it might be more worth getting these questions answered than mine. And we can always go back if we have more time. But so let's start with this one. How do you recommend we get mentors if we're pivoting from a career of 10+ years in another industry and new to the film industry?
Well, I would just say if you're a person of color and you're over 18, probably are because it's over 10 years, to sign up with Rise Up Animation under general industry advice. And that's a great first step because, you know, if you're interested, that is in animation. If you're interested in film, like, you know, live action, I should say, because they're all film, but live action, then, you know, then that's really not what Rise Up Animation is about. But there are a lot of other, you know, groups and people that you can sign up with, you know. So I would just look at what is it that you want to transition into, and that's the most important thing, is to know that and really find someone in that area.
Yeah, I'll just throw in really quickly that just put the word out there. I mean, I think all of us emailed, messaged, LinkedIn, whatever, Blogspot, Tumblr, whatever was of our time, put the word out there and you know, find someone. I know for me, it was like, okay, someone that's maybe from my same area of Canada, or someone that maybe had the same schooling as me, someone I could relate to that might be able to pass along some knowledge. If you can find a connection with your mentor, it might help a little bit. But put the word out. It might be a 1% chance you get someone to get back to you, but that 1% might make a difference.
And I would just add to that finding something common with that person. So, for example, if you heard a story that Trent, Frank, or Bobby or I talked about a certain individual, and you're like, hey, you know what? I've really been wanting to chat with that person. You find them on LinkedIn, you send them a message, say, hey, I was watching this panel, your name came up, I love this story. I would love, you know, I'd love your work. You know, you need to talk about that. And could I just pick your brain for a few minutes, maybe a Zoom with coffee, you know? And you just have to do it. You have to connect. It's so scary, but at the end of the day, all of us generally want to help. I'm like closing my eyes because I can feel that fear. I know it. But most people do want to give back, and they love talking about themselves. I mean, look at it.
Amazing.
Monica. Bobby, Frank, anything you want to add?
That's good. I agree with everything that Monica and Trent said.
Yeah, I think I hit it.
All right, perfect. The next one is it's about, which is the theme of the summit, which is sustainability. So how do you all maintain your energies for Rise Up Animation as working professionals and keep everyone involved, committed to the initiative, especially in these tougher times?
Oh, I think the reality of it.
And motivating yourself at the same time. Like you're motivating
Yeah.
other people and then motivating yourself at the same time. How
I
do you
think
sustain that
the
energy?
reality of it
Question.
is you don't always have that energy. You know, there's plenty of times where, you know, I did it one of our last meetings where I'm like, you know, I got a crazy headache. You know, I've been, just sometimes you just need that moment to kind of get back, because if we're not in good shape, you know, we're not going to be able to be good for anyone else. I think it starts there with taking care of yourself, giving yourself the time, but also I think you get so much energy from when you're helping people, and especially when you get people coming in new and fresh, like that enthusiasm for what they want to do, and just that spark, it's rejuvenating, and I think that's, when you experience that, it kind of brings back that core thing for you, and what kind of got you in it, and remembering that place that you're in, and that's what helps me anyway, and just kind of keeps the energy up, and just, we were talking about it the other day, just remembering like how fortunate we are to be doing this, and being able to make a living.
If we look back to the beginning of Rise Up, yeah, Frank, I totally agree. We started this very without a whole lot of thought going into it. Just let's do this. Let's get together and do this thing because we believe in it. And I remember those first few weeks. I mean, to be honest, we were very overwhelmed. It was a lot. And slowly with time, we found a balance. Thank goodness. And Monica came in. Thank God we had a producer come in and kick our butt a little bit and shape things up. But really, we had mentors too come in, not just mentoring feedback sessions, but volunteers that came in and said, let us take the reins of social media. Let us take the reins of now fundraising. Or we had volunteers come in and say, let us help you get set up for a nonprofit. And we look to groups like VIA and other volunteer efforts to kind of help shape the platform. But I know for all of us, our schedules go up and down, and we get busy at times. Like Frank said, we got each other's back throughout this whole thing. So
that is really what it's about, is having each other's back. So when there's a day where, like Frank said, he had a headache, he needed to decompress, it's too much. You have to know it and call it. And I think because that's one of the things we did is we changed. And I don't know whose idea it was. It was definitely not mine, but it was brilliant. I think it may have been Trent and Bobby's, or about opening up at the end of the month. So we open up at the end of every month for 2 or 3 days, depends, and people can sign up. And then we close the sign up, and all the mentors kind of jump on the form, and we, basically do all the feedback sessions within that next month. And of course, if we don't have enough mentors, because we ask them to look out for themselves too. We don't ask them to do more than 2 a month, but some people do, 3 a week. So sometimes they can burn themselves out, but we have enough people that they can kind of rotate in and out again. And
That's great. This is another one, and I think you kind of touches upon what you were saying, Monica, about just doing it and reaching out, and that it can be scary. But what do you write in emails when reaching out to a potential mentor? Like, is it always very difficult to reach out cold?
I mean, I don't know that I would do it in an email unless there was no other form to do that. So for example, I would look at Instagram and see if I could DM them, or LinkedIn, and try to do it that way, because that can be a nice little short message. But if you do an email, that's fine too. If you got their, like maybe there's a web page for an amazing artist, you're like, and it's like, contact me, then I would just be like, I would literally start off by saying, hi, trying not to sound too much like a fangirl or a fan person, but hey, I really respect your work. And really come out educated, like you really do have done your research on that person, and say, I would love to, I know your time is probably super limited, but I'm aspiring to do this. I would love to pick your brain. And I think sometimes people won't respond. I mean, I did it with Bernie Brillstein when I thought about changing to be a manager from a producer, and I didn't hear back. Little did I know he was sick, but you still keep trying. You cannot stop. All you need is that one yes.
How many times did you email Glenn Keane, Bobby?
Glenn, he loves Glenn.
He's like, let me check my email from yesterday.
Every time I meet Glenn Keane, he forgets that he ever met me, like in life, and he's always like, "Oh, good to meet you," and like I met you like 5 times.
People.
In terms of like the you know, that first reach out, what I learned was not throwing my work out right away, like, because I get a lot of emails like that, you know, where there's not even a greeting sometimes. It's just like, especially when I was at Pixar, I was like, how do I work for Pixar, or can you look at my work, you know, just not like just jumping straight to that, and I'm like, hi, I'm you know, and you know, it's just
where are the pleasantries, you know?
Right, exactly. And so I think you know, one of the things, and this was something that I learned back at like a conference, because what was it, maybe one of the early CTNs, it was like it was just a conversation, and then talking about it was more so just getting to know them and their journey, and seeing, you know, like, you know, just where I'm headed, what I admired of what I knew about their path and their work, and like Monica was saying, you know, just like not you know, fanboying or anything, but it's just, you know, just paying, you know, respect to the what they brought to their craft, and you know, wanting to learn from that journey, and you know, because I think, you know, when you're having those conversations, just natural curiosity, you know, I want to see what their work looks like. And so, you know, that's what happened in that moment was, you know, they had reached out after we were going back and forth. They had reached out and asked me, like, do I have a reel up or something? Because I had never got to that point of you know, showing the work. So that really was something that I learned, and kind of kept on from there.
That's great, Frank. It's because I think all of us have received the copy and paste messages, which we can tell. I've been in that office with 5 other people, and we all get the same copy and paste email, and we know right away. Don't do that. It's not a good idea.
Do your research, like really, you know, put your heart into it a bit and think about it. You know, there's a lot of questions in here about, you know, how do you find a mentor? And I think the thing that I want to keep repeating is, depending on what field you want to be in, if it's live action versus animation, look at your favorite movies, see if there's some people that, you know, you're like really like their work, and then reach out to them. That's one of the first ways. And then if that doesn't work, you can go to like the Visual Effects Society, the Academy. They have programs that they are helping people on the outside.
Can I throw one thing in there too? Is I think the instinct is to go big with the mentor. Like when you're like, I'm going to email Glenn Keane. Like you want to go big. I know what worked for me was finding working professionals that were just a couple years ahead of me that I could learn from. You know, Glenn Keane can't mentor everybody, so find those stepping stones. You know, it's of course we would all love to be mentored by James Baxter and Glenn Keane, but
and then we also, like, from the other perspective is like, you know, if you're in a position where you can, you know, you've kind of made your way in the industry, and you can if you can mentor somebody, do it. It's so gratifying. I can't tell you how many times that I've worked with somebody or mentored someone that you know, like Glenn Keane said, you get just as much out of it mentoring somebody than they get from you. And so, like, mentorship for a mentor, like, you know, if we're talking about like people in the industry, it's so satisfying mentoring somebody, you know, or just kind of like going back and forth a little bit of like talking about their work, what they can improve on, and sharing your experiences, you know, and it's a two-way street, right? I mean, like, it's not just you dispersing advice. What are they going through? What are they struggling with? You know, what are the biggest struggles they have, like as a student? And you're automatically like brought back to like, oh yeah, I was there as well. I was there too. I remember the struggles. So like the mentor-mentee, kind of relationship is really kind of like a beautiful thing, just because it's kind of like you can, anytime I meet with like a Rise Up mentee, I mean, I get so much out of it, and you're connecting with somebody, man, halfway across the world, man. It's crazy. Or just in LA, it's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. For me, Monica, Trent, Frank, please feel free to chime in. But like, isn't that the best feeling of just kind of like, oh, we're not even talking about industry stuff now. We're talking about human life. Human, just kind of like open like goals and ambitions and that kind of stuff at that point.
Yeah.
What I love with the Rise Up team, like we're all, Allison, we all work off like a Slack channel, all the mentors, and we have a little celebration channel too. And it's where the mentors can post, hey, my mentee, got a job, their first job in the industry. And Monica, Frank, Bobby, and I all text all the time, like, can you believe it? So-and-so got a job. We're so proud of them. So, I mean, for me, that's the best. It's the best.
Yeah, it's all.
I love
that.
Go ahead, Mon.
I always tell the mentee that I meet with, like, hey, if you want, you can always email me. You're welcome to. You should sign up again with someone else, maybe because maybe it was a general industry advice, or we didn't have enough people in visual development right now. There's a lot of people that sign up for character or visual development environments, and we don't have as many mentors as we'd like in those areas, right? It's not always easy. So sometimes we'll pitch in and jump in there. And I always tell people, look, I want to see your journey. I want to see your trajectory. So just send me artwork that you do if you want randomly and let me see, and they do. And it is phenomenal, So yeah, it's the best.
I have one more question, which I think might be the most important for this group right here, which is, can you share more specifics on how people can sign up to get involved with?
Well, there's a couple things. When you say there was one question, how can we be a mentee? If you're BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, person of color, you can be multiracial. So that means you can be half Caucasian as long as you're half Black, Hispanic, Asian, and you'll basically see the form. You have to pick your ethnicity, and everyone who's not from the United States generally knows their ethnicity, because unless you're a Native American, we're not all from here. So you should know what your roots are and put that in there. So that's the first thing, and be 18 or over. And then, so that's how to become a mentee. To volunteer, we take volunteers in different areas. So just send us an email to rua@riseupanimation.com if you're looking to volunteer. We may have some openings in certain areas, but we may not. So we're always looking for people who want to get involved. We also do outreach. So if people are watching and there's schools or things, the four of us will go in and do talks for as young as 6th graders all the way up, because we want to be planting the seed about animation and let people know that you can have a future in it. Because a lot of schools have done away with art, so know that we do that too. Guys?
Is there a website you can put in the chat where they can?
Tell them, Trent.
How do they reach you?
we do have a website being built, but currently we operate fully off our Instagram. So that's our Rise Up Instagram, and you'll see we have a link tree there where you can sign up at the last 3 days of the month. We will have a website that is launching very soon, but it's under construction.
Oh, thank you for putting that in the chat. It's in there right now, Instagram. Wonderful.
And we do on the Instagram, you'll see, and this will eventually be on the website too. We'll have links to all the YouTube videos from panels. Bobby's been hosting panels weekly since the beginning. So we have panels, we have resources, we have links to other artists, including BIPOC mentees that are there to help kind of shine on their work. And yeah, and then eventually on the website we'll have fundraising as we go, since we're a nonprofit, as we go into that territory. So.
Right, we've been a nonprofit since November, so we're very young, but we do hope in the future to be able to get donations, equipment and things like that, to be able to to give out to our community.
That's fantastic. Let's do one last round and maybe parting words of inspiration, anything you want to share. We'll start with Bobby, go to Frank, Monica,
yeah,
and then
cool.
Trent.
I'll just say these the panel has heard this before, but you know, the for everyone that's listening right now, whether you're kind of wanting to get into the industry or you're in the industry right now, I mean, like my personal advice would be to tell your reach deep down into your soul and your heart and your experiences and tell your stories, because the industry needs it. The industry needs you. You know, and whether, you know, even character design portfolios, story portfolios, or just kind of if you're pitching to a studio, I mean, like, you know, we're all about just kind of like what stories can you bring to the table and how can you stand out, and so celebrate your who you are and your culture and your experience. So I'll kick it off to Trent. What do you think, buddy?
Oh, cool. I was ready to go last, but let's do this. Yeah. I would say, you know, present your genuine self. I think all the artists, recruiters, they can sense genuine passion and that you're growing in the industry. And I'm going to put Don Yamazi in the chat or on the spot because I saw her in the chat. You know, Don was recruiting at Disney at the time and part of the outreach team, and you know, she met with me 3, 4, 5 years before I got to Disney, and we had a relationship. You know, that you know, when she was in town, we'd go get coffee, and I'd send her work, and we had a back and forth, and those are very special. And I think on both sides you can recognize passion and genuine passion for that. So yeah,
Amazing.
Put it out there.
Amazing. Yeah, Don. Yeah.
And I'll kick it off to Frank.
See, I definitely echo, you know, the you know, putting your stories out there and putting yourself out there, for sure, and also just on the craft of everything. You know, it's so, you know, some people will take to, you know, whatever the craft is, and some people will have to struggle. I know I struggled hard, and you know, I definitely questioned my place in the industry along the way, you know, even after I started working. And so, you know, that stuff is natural, but you know, just you being here and being interested in getting a mentor or just elevating yourself. I mean, that's the first step. You know, that's the thing that's going to keep you growing in the industry. So definitely keep doing that and find ways to continue to elevate yourself, you know, even outside of the studio, just ways to continue growing and getting your voice out there. Because you know, with all the shit going on in the world, you know, it's important for us to be able to, you know, put some bit of ourselves and some kind of hope into the world, and you know, keep that connection going on the art front. And you know, like I think maybe Trent said it, but that's ultimately what studios want to see. If that's, you know, if that's where you want to be, you know, that we're creating these films and trying to put something honest out in the world. So that's, you know, we want to hear that those unique perspectives and see that and bring something special to the film. So yeah, keep at it.
Awesome.
I think my parting words would be, we're not all born savants, and the combination of really hard work and being super open to feedback, not thinking you know it all, is a great combination for getting to where you want to go. And I say that because, you know, a lot of us don't see our own creativity in ourselves. There's always that imposter syndrome. You never think you're good enough. And at the end of the day, everybody feels it no matter how far you've gotten, whenever you're going to that next step. You know, every time I got promoted, I was like, oh, am I really ready for this? And the truth is, you got to go for it. You don't accept, you know, there'll be a lot of no's. I've gotten a lot of no's. That's okay. Remember that most people who make it get a lot of no's. Keep trying and open to the feedback, because if your work is not good enough, you've got to work hard and you can get there.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. My panelists, thank you so
you.
much for being here on a Saturday. It means a lot. Thank you, Rise Up Animation. What you're doing is truly inspiring and is changing the landscape of our industry. So appreciate that. And this is also the last panel of the BRIC 2021 Summit. So we are a wrap, people. Thank you to the 86 that are still hanging out with us. This has been an amazing day. I know I'm feeling energized, and I can't wait to share with the rest of the world all the amazing things that have come from these last 2 days. I want to say thank you again to all the amazing volunteers, our sponsors, our panelists, my co-founders, and my board. So thank you very much, and congratulations to all. We did this. Yes, cute confetti work.
Congratulations, Allison.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
You deserve a nap, Allison. You deserve a nap.
so it's been a blast. I learned something new, and to the 85 now that are still here, you never stop learning. Like, no matter your age, no matter where you're at in the industry, for myself, you never stop. And every one of these people that I'm here with inspire me every day, and I learn something new. So again, thank you for being true to who you are, and keep inspiring others. And to the 85, go and inspire people in your ecosystem as well. All right. Thank you. That's a wrap. Have a great rest of your weekend.